Hi, I'm Dr. Margaret, and welcome to the very first episode of The Love Life. One day, a few years ago, I ran into a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a while. We talked for a little while, and she eventually asked me about my love life. Well, I knew what she was asking me. And any other time, I would have said, "Oh girl, I'm still single." But at that moment, something clicked. While I was not in a romantic relationship, my life was certainly not void of love. There's an abundance of ways that my heart, soul, and life are full of and overflowing with love. Welcome to The Love Life. I'm Dr. Margaret, and on this show, I talk to some incredibly loving people about what that big four-letter word means to them. So join us as we explore the question, how's your love life? I'm so excited that you are here with me to have these conversations about love. As you heard in the intro, I just believe that love is just such an important and expansive word, and it does not only live in the context of romantic relationships. There's all types of ways that love is expressed and that love is formed and that love is understood within each and every one of us. So I'm so excited about today's episode because I have a friend of mine here who I describe as the woman that I needed to know when I was like 21 years old. Like, had I known a Pamela Thompson when I was 21, life would have been a lot different for me. And so I think it's important that as women, as we get older, as we grow and come into a knowledge of ourselves, that we can be surrounded by other women who are beautiful and confident and just excited about life and love people. And so I'm excited to have Pamela Thompson as my very first guest because Pamela is amazing. She is a wife, she's a mother of 4 girls, she's a culturist, a maker, an activist, and best of all, Pam is a wondrous writer. When you read Pam's words, her words are healing, they're liberatory, and you also know that when Pam wrote those words, they healed and liberated her first. She does not shy away from sharing who she is with those in her community and those in her world, and I'm just really excited that she is with me today. So Pamela Thompson, who also calls me Mo, I'm gonna have to let her tell you why she calls me Mo. Welcome to The Love Life.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Sincerely, yes.
I want to know, what were you like as a child? What made you happy? What did you love? How did you even form an opinion of yourself? Yeah.
I think the way people perceive me now is a lot different from who I was when I was a little girl. So my mom had me when she was 19, and my mom was really the glory of her family because she was able to accomplish a lot of things that her mother and her siblings were not able to. So when she went to college and got pregnant with me, it was like a huge thing in the family. And so honestly, Mo, most of my life, I have reflected back on my childhood from a position of deficit. But it's only been within these last few years that thing has been flipped. I would always think of, growing up, not knowing my biological father. But the other side of that reality is when my mom brought me home to her mother's house, she brought me home to a household full of people who were so excited to not just have a baby in the house, but to have me in the house. So I had all these instant brothers and my uncles. I had aunties who were just so ready to love on me and see me. And so I think that, like I said, because of seeing my situation from a position of deficit instead of abundance, I, as a child, was very quiet. I was very shy. I was spoiled because my grandma and my uncles, they loved me so well. I was super imaginative. I mean, I probably talked to myself.
We have that in common.
Yes, I mean, I was always making up stories. I was always going somewhere else, even though I'm right here. I still do that. Like, it's a lot happening in here, and I am not afraid to go there. So yeah, I was just quiet, shy, but I lived somewhere different from everyone else. And I think that preserved me. It preserved my ability to be innocent. It preserved my happiness, even though there were a lot of sad times. It made me resilient. And in some ways, I'm seeing that little girl, Pam, cheer for me now as I take bolder steps as a woman.
Wow. So like little Pam, you know, you said she was quiet. Like what were you into? Like what were some of the things that you loved to do when you were young?
I mean, I would read all the time, and I've always been very curious. So I would try to figure out how to do new things. So I remember middle school me taking an interest in sewing, but I didn't have a sewing machine. So I would try to sew a skirt with just some needle and thread. Like I wasn't afraid to try new things, but mainly just lots of books. I felt like I could go anywhere in a book. Some of the books I should not have been reading. I'm just gonna say it. But the world was just open to me. So I would just go there. But mainly reading, playing with my sister, doing crafty, artsy things was my jam.
Yeah, so like something you said that I did not know, but it shows up for you, like it shows up as I experience you. I don't know how other people experience you, but you are a woman that I can tell is loved. Like you are well loved. And for you to say that you grew up in a family and in a home where people actually loved you, even though you saw a lot of deficits in your life, it just is very apparent to me that like you grew up being loved. And did you always feel that? Like, did you feel it when you were a child that you were loved?
Not as a child, because life was so busy and distracted for most of the adults in my life. And so I think I kept trying to earn the love I already had because I wasn't just being and stewing in the love that was already there. So I became very performance based. I kept, trying to make sure I made really great grades in school. If the house was really loud, I tried to be very quiet. If it seemed that I could do just one more thing to make somebody happy, I kept trying to be approving. I kept trying to be impressive. But it just was already so apparent, but I couldn't see it. I really couldn't.
And that's the thing, like when you first started this, you said you think people see you now in a way that people didn't see you then. And I think it's different. I think you see yourself now as people saw you then, right? Like we grow into ourselves and we come into ourselves. And to me, that's what love is. Like love shows us ourselves. Love actually introduces us to ourselves.
I totally agree. Even just understanding that as a mother and telling, especially my oldest girl all the time, you don't have to impress me. I already love you, and I couldn't love you any more than I already do. I know that if my mom or anybody else had told me what they actually felt, like if they had expressed it in words, it probably would have made a difference because I'm such a words person. A friend of mine and I were talking the other day about how if someone says something that they articulate in a way that we don't understand, we'll say, "Can you spell it?" Because when they spell it, I can see it better. And I think if my mom or my aunt or my grandma had actually said it with their words instead of their actions, I think it would have stilled me long enough to pay attention and receive it better.
That's so interesting because most people, not most people, but a lot of people feel the opposite. It's like, show me, show me, show me. Don't tell me, show me. Yeah. And because you're such a lover of words and you have such an intimate relationship with words, you're like, no, tell me, say it. Yeah. Say it with your mouth.
That's right.
Yes, that's so good. I met you through the beautiful project. I'm in Maya's Room Writing Circle, and I'm so glad that I joined Maya's Room. But when I met you, I just saw love like all over you. And I've always been intrigued, one, by Black women who just seem very confident, seem like open and accepting of other people. You always make space for people. You don't look at, like, this may seem like a small thing, but you don't look at people strange. You know, like, I've encountered lots of people, especially women, and we look at each other in a strange way, right? Like, we might say like, oh, she's a little different, you know? And there's this sort of this pause that we have when we meet people, but you're not like that. Like, you are open and you see people for who they are. And so I wanted to have this conversation with you because you're part of my love life. And so I want to ask you, how's your love life?
My love life is really, really, really great these days. I think it's because I'm learning how to better love myself. I think I do, again, because of my upbringing and wanting to be pleasing to people, particularly the people who I care about. I've done a fair job at loving others, but I haven't always done so well at loving me. And so I'm feeling more full from that love because I'm taking more time with Pam, and I'm not judging her as much as I have before. I'm just trying to figure out how to love her and take care of her so she can keep being who she's supposed to be in the world. So yeah, my love life is full.
Yeah. So how do you love yourself? Like, what are the ways that you practice love for yourself?
It starts with that piece of not judging myself so much as I have, using words like should have, ... need to, ... and just allowing myself to be who I am, and allowing that information to do just that. Inform me, give me information, tell me what I need to know so I can be who I am and quit trying to even perform for me. So when I'm learning that I'm tired, I don't give myself a hard time for being tired or try to make it make sense. Well, you did do this. No, you're tired. Lay down.
Please.
Right, lay down. It'll get done. Like, oh, you feel good. You're happy for no apparent reason. Don't try to legitimize it. You're happy. Be happy. Yeah. Those are the ways.
That's so important too, because, and I was thinking about this the other day actually, like how sometimes you even feel guilty for being happy. Yes. Like we judge it because there's so many things going on in the world around us. And it's like, why would you be happy? All of these things are happening. It's as if you feel like you don't deserve joy. You don't deserve rest. And so it is important to have those conversations with yourself to say, no, it's fine. Yeah. Lay down. Yes. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your childhood. And I'm going to talk to you more about that at some point. But when you talked about being loved and being in a family of people who loved you, so I'm thinking, like, what experiences, can you think about experiences that sort of shaped the way you see love or informed your understanding of love? Like, how did you know what love was?
My grandmother, so my maternal grandmother, her name was Mabel. She was a fierce woman. Wow. But I feel like she was at the apex of this like really strong triangulation of women who just showed up and loved hard just by the things that they did for people and the way that they were present in people's lives. My grandma, I know that my mom was a disappointment when she revealed that I was in her womb, but some kind of way, my grandma turned that thing around. And to this day, I hear from family members about how much she loved me. In fact, when my grandmother passed away, she owned 2 homes. One of them she had transported from one piece of land to another piece of land, and she had the whole house remodeled. My grandmother left me everything she had, and she left all of her children $2 a piece.
Were you her only grandchild?
I was not, and I was not her first grandchild. But that woman loved me that fiercely. She fiercely protected me, and she looked out for me. I mean, she put everything into me, and it wasn't because she had to, because I had a good mom. I lived with my parents. It wasn't like she was raising me, but she enjoyed my company. And so I think she just really taught me not only what it felt like to be loved, but to be wanted, to be desired from the very beginning. I learned that from my grandma.
Wow. So how does that show up for you? Like, as you live your life, the ways that your grandmother loved you, how does that show up for you as you love other people?
My grandmother pursued me. And so I pursue people to show them that I love them, even if it's just a text. I think often my love shows up strongest through my words and through my service. I think words, again, because they're so important to me and I yearn for them. But I also think service because, like you were saying before, a lot of people are like, don't just tell me, show me. And so I'm always prepared to back up what I say. And that's because of the example that I saw in my mother and my grandmother. I mean, she would call me on the weekend and say, hey, Pammy, you gonna come spend the weekend with me? And there was no reason for her to do that. And so I go after people. I think that's what you sense when you see me not looking at people strange, as you described. It's because, I mean, I just feel like we all need to feel that warmth and comfort, and just that feeling that you get when you know somebody wants you.
Yeah. Man, that's good. But shout out to Grandma Mabel. Yes. I had an aunt named Mabel, and she was fierce too. Maybe it had something to do with the name Mabel.
It might.
So Pam, you are a wondrous writer. Whenever I read your words, I'm just like, ooh, Pam, speak to my soul. Thank you, friend. I mean, and it's like the diversity of your writing, how I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, but you love words, and I can tell that you love words. When did you fall in love with writing and fall in love with words?
Oh, you just asked these questions, such good questions. I feel like it's been from the very beginning. I really do. I still remember, so for example, when I read books, for me, it's not just the experience of the reading, it's who I get to meet in those pages and what I get to learn about myself. So I remember when I met Joan of Arc, and I remember the words that were used to describe Joan of Arc. And I remember feeling like if I wanted to keep her, after I closed the pages of that book, it was the words that were going to have her endure inside of me. Yeah. And this is when I was like super young. I remember when I met the colored girls through Taki Shang's words. I remember stopping like where I was, which was in my mama's room, probably not a book that she wanted me to find when I find it, but I stopped everything and I literally sat on the floor and I just flipped and flipped and flipped pages. And I'm that woman who somebody walked away with all her stuff. Yeah. She is still with me. She is still with me. So I've always just loved words because they endure, you know? Sticks and stones may break my bones, with words never hurt. It's a lie.
It is a lie. Say it again for the people in the back.
Yes, I mean, words endure. And so they've just always been with me.
Yeah, yeah. As a lover of words, you're a writer, you're a reader, but you're also a maker. And when I discovered your journals, Peiea Grace, I was like, oh, I'm going to get all of them. I'm personally going to take it upon myself to keep her in business because these journals are beautiful. So, and I've purchased several of them from you and I use them for different things. So could you tell us a little bit about Peiea Grace?
Yes. So the word Peiea is actually my name and the first letter of some part of the names of my 4 daughters. And so Peiea Grace really is like an amalgamation of everything that I love. Being a wife, even on the hard days, being a wife, being a mom, even on the hard days, being a lover of Christ, feasts, books, the sisterhood, justice, all of those things come together. And so if I could create a space that involved all of those things, it would be Peiea Grace. And the journals are one output of this space that I would like to create.
Yeah, so tell us about that space. Like, what does that look like?
Honestly, Mo, it looks like a gathering of women coming together and really just spilling ourselves on the page, first for ourselves and then for our orbit. And so when we would leave this space where we spill freely, no judgment, no performance, we would go back out into our orbit and we would be able to effect change and exist more truly in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love it when people make things that they actually use. So I'm a big journaler. I've always journaled. When I was a child, I journaled, and I love that your pages are blank. They don't have lines on them, because sometimes when I journal, I want to draw. I don't want to have to write from left to right. I may turn my book sideways and write that way one day. And so I love that. I love that you think about that when you make these. But can you tell me a little bit about how journaling or writing has been a practice of love for you in that way? Like, when you make these, what are you thinking about? You know, what's on your mind?
I'm thinking about how I get to participate in somebody else's freedom journey. I'm thinking about how I could create something really cute, really chic, really pretty, that someone will be happy to carry around with them anywhere they go, as they observe the world, as they observe the people, as they observe themselves in the world, and that they're getting closer to getting free.
Yeah.
Or that they are working at staying free if they're already there. And so, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Honestly, it's almost like, you know, the commercials where the mama is lovingly packing lunch for the babies and she's putting a little love note in the lunch. That's my love note to people, predominantly women, even though I have some really kind men who are like, when you gonna make journals for men? So I'm working on that, but for now I'm making them for my women.
I mean, they can buy a pink journal that says love.
I agree. Yes.
So Pam, I've purchased lots of your journals, and this one says love. And so I knew at the beginning of this pandemic, I had decided, like, you know, I'm going to focus on loving myself, because if I'm going to be home more, at least I could practice like some intentional self-care and self-love practices. So I was like, I need a journal. I need to be able to write things down. And I also knew, and we were talking earlier about self-love, I also knew that, like, for me to love myself, I have to make it an intentional practice. And when I write things down, there's an intention setting kind of aspect to that. So this particular journal I've been using as like my holistic wellness journal, where I keep up with like what I'm eating, what I'm supposed to be eating, how I'm feeling. I write down my affirmations. And so I think when you create these journals, you're not only creating like a tool for people to use, you're actually creating like the vessel that is leading people to love, and like leading people to love through their words and through their intentions. So like I was very adamant about living a love life during this time. So we could sit here and have this beautiful conversation knowing that like there's lots of things going on in the world right now, but love is here. Like love is still here, it's still present with us. So how are you creating your love life, or a life that you love, in the midst of lots of uncertainty?
Yeah, that's a really important question. Thank you for asking it, because as you mentioned, I'm a mom of 4 girls. And so they are 10, 9, 5, and 2. And so in their own ways, all at the same time, they're in really pivotal and transformative years. And I can easily get wrapped up in that. Also because children can tend to be, can make you feel very responsive, like you have to respond to their every call and cry. And I've learned that that's just not the best mode. So it's hard for me to create a life that I love, but what's been essential for me is having a storehouse of time. And I know that sounds crazy to how you gonna store up time. But I think one way that I've done it is just by using my journal to keep track of how I'm spending my time. When I'm wasting time, I often feel like I don't have enough, but I've learned I have all the time I need. I'm just squandering it or wasting it on things that are not necessary or that are not worthy of the energy that I put in. But then not only that, rearranging my time. And so for me, creating that life really has been about how do I make intentional and meaningful deposits in my day that incrementally will lead me to where I want to be. Because since I have so much responsibility with the girls, I can't be lavish right now with my time. But it doesn't mean that I don't have all the time that I need. I just have to be more intentional.
Before we close, why do you call me Mo?
So I call you Mo because really, Mo, before you knew you were mine, like in my heart, you were mine. And the people who I have affection for, I just nicknamed them. And so in my phone, you are Mo Brown because Margot didn't work for me. All these other names that I'm sure people call you affectionately, they just didn't work. And you are so beautifully brown. And so it's just like, I gotta have me some Mo Brown. So that is why I call you Mo.
A whole other name, Mo Brown.
Yes.
That should be my alter ego name, Mo Brown.
Yes.
I like it. Thank you. I just want to thank you and your beautiful self for joining me on the very first episode of The Love Life. And I want you to tell folks, like, how can they get to know you and your brand? Where can they find you online?
At Peiea Grace on all social channels. And so that's at Peiea Grace, one word. And on my website, which is peiagrace.com, where I'm blogging and talking about things that I love. And so, yeah, that would be a treat.
Yes, it will be a treat for them. And I have a treat for them now, because I want to close this episode by reading some of your words. So in May, you wrote a piece about perspective, and you said, this is one for the ones who need a new perspective. So I want to read that piece now. Today, I trade control for curiosity. I will make wonder my muse and gaze into the void of all my unknowing with a glow of anticipation. Not for the answers, nor for filled-in blanks, but for the sheer wonderment of the journey, positioning myself as a watchwoman for the miracles I'd otherwise misperceive. I will release my grip on progress and productivity to free fall, arms splayed out wide on either side of me, eyes closed, mind liberated of a sense of responsibility, and enjoy what things may come, because life is a journey, and sometimes it's okay to slow down and sightsee. This sounds like the love life to me. That's all I have. Pam is amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Margaret, and until next time, live, love, and love life.